Thank God. Oh my God. Wait, what if planning to fix your life? You could say this is an ASMR. You know what? It really would be an ASMR if you're listening on the YouTube because I'm like speaking right into the microphone. So like I can start whispering. I can start whispering. I can start doing this. I don't know if everyone likes ASMR over here. Um, I personally like ASMR, but I'm not gonna do ASMR. I would be really damn good at ASMR too. I would be really damn good at ASMR, but we're not doing. Hello, YouTube part three. Minecraft. Sam, thank you for your comments on the YouTube. They bring me joy. Um, let's gonna make it to work if we go at this pace. Artie smart. The YouTube live is gonna be the YouTube live recording is gonna be very fucking funny with like everything that went wrong. Okay. Oh, but I can't see the progress bar. Cool, 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 cool. Krima. I keep thinking about the Bad Bunny sketch on SNL. They don't know the power of the home run. Yeah, what was it? What was it? How did it end? I can't do anything, but they can. We're going up, up. I love that sketch so much. You 100% should join the YouTube too. I mean, I'm sharing the text on YouTube. How's it going? It's going, Danny. Danny, we've had way too many issues. And I'm just holding on. I'm just holding on. It's fine. It's going fine. I'm just it's just taking more time than I would have liked. We're going up. I can't sing. I lost my voice this last week. Like it was crazy. Anyways, I'm gonna keep going because we have 30 people here. That night, Zoe had her headphones in again, still working on the mix sheet abandoned months ago. Her nightly call with her mother had happened earlier than usual. Cora had a faculty meeting to prepare for, and Zoe had figured with the extra time, she'd try her hand at refining the track. She was working in the living room, sitting on the floor with her back against the couch, her laptop balanced on the coffee table. Mira was in her room, probably doing her daily stretches. Dancers and their obsessive need to stay limber. And Rumi was, well, who knows? Probably just in her room, taking space when she could. They'd all gotten good at that over the past 2 months, knowing when to be present and when to retreat. Zoe had brought one of her songwriting notebooks with her, the one with a bunch of the demon hunting songs she'd written before Idol Awards. Before Rumi, before Kuma, before the night her patterns had glowed bright and iridescent, beautiful instead of hidden and shameful, the way Celine had taught her they should be. As much as Zoe hated these songs now, she did have other drafts in here from scrapped projects. Songs that had nothing to do with demons or hunting or violence, and she wanted some inspiration for the mix. She adjusted the EQ levels, pushing the bass up slightly, then pulling it back down when it muddied the vocals, her head bobbing slightly to the track as she wrung her brain for some stroke of musical luck. Beethoven probably had moments like this, right? All the greats did. Coldplay did, surely. Zoe tapped her foot to the music as she licked her thumb to flip through the pages in the notebook, scanning lyrics she'd written in different moods and moments over the years. Some were terrible. Dramatic attempts at being profound that made her cringe now, while others had potential, lines that caught on something true, even if the execution was clumsy. Then she hit a section she'd forgotten wasn't here. They hide behind human faces, patterns crawling under skin. We'll burn them out, erase the traces. Can't let the monsters win. God, her stomach turned. She'd written that, had presented it to Rumi as a song idea, and Rumi had nodded and said it worked for their concept. Had probably gone home that night and looked at her own patterns in the mirror and internalized every word about burning and erasing and monsters. Zoe flipped the page quickly, but the next one was worse. Purple lines like chains that bind them. Mark them so we know what's real. Hunt them down, don't look behind them. They don't get to think or feel. Jesus Christ. She'd made Rumi sing that on their second mini album. Oh, in a B-side that fans had loved for its raw energy. Rumi had recorded it in one take, her voice perfect and professional, giving no indication that every word was a knife aimed at her own throat. Her chest felt tight. Rumi should hate her. Rumi should hate them both, her and Mira, for building a career on music that treated half of what Rumi was as something that needed to be destroyed, for making her dance and sing and smile while performing songs about how she didn't deserve to exist. And they'd all just gone along with it. Celine had approved the concepts. The company loved them. Of course. Zoe's thumb hovered over another page, but she couldn't bring herself to flip it. Her therapist had talked about this in their last session, about recognizing past mistakes without letting guilt consume you, about acknowledging harm you'd caused while still allowing yourself room to grow. The mix continued playing through her headphones. She'd completely lost track of what she'd been trying to fix in the mix, too caught up in staring at lyrics that felt like evidence of the cruelty she was capable of. She felt a weight settle on the couch behind her, the cushion dipping against her back. She startled hard, her body jerking, and turned to see purple hair flowing over the armrest. Rumi had settled into her usual corner of the couch without Zoe hearing her approach. Let's go, Rumi moments, let's go. Rumi tapped her own ear, signaling for Zoe to take off her headphones. Zoe yanked them off immediately, her hands scrambling to close the notebook before Rumi could see what page she'd been staring at. Sorry, I was just... Zoe? Rumi interrupted gently, and there was no anger in her voice, just concern. It's okay. What are you up to? Zoe scooted over slightly, making room so Rumi could lean in and see her laptop screen properly. She used a hand to subtly push the notebook further away, and it dangled precariously off the edge of the coffee table, threatening to fall. Rumi leaned forward, her eyes tracking across the screen to take in the arrangement of tracks and the waveforms displayed there. She didn't even glance at the notebook, didn't seem to register its existence. New mix? Zoe watched Rumi's face as she studied the screen and could practically see her brain making sense of the layers, identifying the bass line, the vocal track, the percussion, all of it being dissected and analyzed in real time. Rumi had always been good at this, at hearing music the way other people saw blueprints. Zoe played with a ring on her finger, suddenly aware that she wasn't used to talking Rumi about anything that didn't concern her burn, her healing, or her or Mira's schedules. Not music, not creative work, not the things they used to share easily before everything got complicated. Then the smell hit her then. Lavender and bergamot, the same scent she'd cried over a week ago when she'd entered Rumi's room without permission. When she'd sat in Rumi's chair and held Rumi's shirt and let herself fall apart over everything she'd lost and might never get back. Here, Zoe said, holding out the headphones. Rumi took them, settling over her head, but keeping one cup above her ear so she could still hear Zoe if Zoe spoke. The mix was still paused on the screen. frozen at the 2 minute mark where Zoe had been trying to fix a transition. Not new, Zoe said, her voice coming out quieter than she'd intended. This one is almost a year old, maybe even older. Just trying to fix it. Use my free time. The words felt hollow as she said them. Free time. Like she had so much of it now. Endless hours to fill while Rumi and Mira worked and she stayed home being the broken piece that needed mending. Rumi kept looking at her screen. Rumi kept looking at the screen for another moment, then reached forward and pressed the space bar. The mix started playing, and she lowered the other cup over her ear, fully immersing herself in the track. Zoe watched her process it, the slight tilt of her head, the way her eyes tracked across the screen following the progression of layers. It was quiet in the living room. Mira was probably in the shower by now. She never stretched for too long in the evening. Rumi shifted closer. I'm going to check something real quick. Rumi shifted closer, leaning further forward to get a better view of the arrangement. Zoe found herself leaning back slightly, giving Rumi space, trying not to crowd her, trying not to think too hard about how close they were, how this was the most intimate they'd been since that morning weeks ago when Rumi had helped change her bandage before leaving for schedules. That's when Zoe noticed what Rumi was wearing, the same oversized shirt, the one that had been draped over her desk chair, the one that Zoe had held to her face and cried into while sitting in Rumi's room uninvited. Light fabric, soft cotton, now covering Rumi's frame as she hunched forward to focus on the music. Zoe swallowed hard, her throat suddenly tight. She wondered if he knew, if she'd noticed that her room had been entered, if she'd realized someone had been in there taking her things, or if it had gone all gone unnoticed. Just another day where Rumi had grabbed whatever shirt was closest and gone about her day. The mix continued playing through the headphones, and Zoe tried to focus on watching Rumi's reactions instead of falling into thoughts about invasions of privacy and boundaries she'd crossed. Rumi's expression was neutral and concentrated, the way it always got when she was analyzing music, understanding how the pieces fit together or didn't. Zoe's hands found that loose thread on her hoodie again, fingers working it without conscious thought. She wanted to ask what Rumi thought, wanted to know if the mix was salvageable or if she should just scrap it and start over. But she didn't want to interrupt, didn't want to break whatever delicate moment this was. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 3 minutes, Rumi took off the headphones and let them rest around her neck. She looked at Zoe with those dark eyes Zoe could get lost in a lifetime ago. "This is really good," Rumi said. "I can hear what you're going for. There is a solid melody already." She turned toward the screen, leaning closer and putting a hand on Zoe's shoulder, gesturing at different layers with the other. "Here, in the second verse, you could add a counter melody, something subtle, maybe just humming or a synth line that mirrors the bass progression." She hummed a few bars, her voice low and clear, demonstrating what she meant. "And this transition at the 2 minute mark, if you dropped out everything except the vocals for just a half beat before bringing the percussion back in, it would hit harder." Zoe watched her talk, watched the way Rumi's face lit up when she was analyzing music, when she was in her element doing what she loved. This was the side of Rumi that had made Zoe fall in love with her in the first place. The way she poured herself completely into everything she did. The way she loved music with her whole being. The way she loved them steadily, relentlessly, even after everything that had tried to break them apart. Rumi, who continued to lead them through promotions like she had never been exposed in front of everyone, at Idol Awards. Rumi, who kept showing up, kept trying, kept loving them, even after Michael and the aftermath of the damage he'd caused. I love you, Zoe blurted out. I love her. The words came out before she could stop them, honest and raw, because it was true, because she didn't want to live in a world where she didn't say it enough, where she let moments pass without making sure Rumi knew. Rumi stopped talking mid-sentence. Her mouth stayed slightly open, caught on whatever technical note she'd been about to make. Then Zoe watched Rumi's face morph into that same look she'd been giving her for the last 2 months. The one that was loving but strained. Like Rumi had only ever forgiven Zoe first because she knew Zoe needed the forgiveness. Like she decided Zoe had already gone through too much and that the strain of not earning Rumi's forgiveness would kill her. Zoe could acknowledge that those things were probably true, had brought it up in therapy even. But God, she hated this look. She wanted to tear it off Rumi's skin and see how much contempt Rumi really had for her. She wanted Rumi to hate her the same way she'd hated Mira after the fight, the way Zoe knew she deserved. She wanted to claw at her, put her hand into Rumi's chest, and pull out the vitriol she knew Rumi wanted to throw her way. Rumi opened her mouth, and Zoe knew she was going to say something placating and loving and gentle. Maybe she'd even say she loved her back. And Zoe felt insane. She couldn't let Rumi say it. You should hate me, Zoe said. Rumi blinked, her hand still on Zoe's shoulder. What? I compared you to him, to Michael. The words started tumbling out, faster and more desperate. I said you were just like... I looked at you and said that. How do you even look at me after that? Zoe. And at the Idol Awards, when I found out about your patterns, I raised my weapons at you. I pointed them at you like you were the enemy, like you were something I needed to kill, and I never said sorry enough for that. Stop. What? I invaded your room when you weren't there. I touched your things without your permission. I cried into your shirt. I'm so pathetic. Her voice broke. And everything with him, with my dad. I brought all of that here. Made you fly to LA. Made you watch me almost die. Made everything about my mess. Zoe, please. And those songs. Zoe's hands were shaking now, gesturing harshly. God, those awful songs I wrote about how demons deserve to die, about how they were monsters, how we needed to burn them out and erase them. The tears were coming faster. I made you sing them, Rumi. I wrote lyrics about killing demons, and you had to stand there and perform them and smile, and I never think about anything. Zoe, I can't even write anymore. I'm just sitting here being useless while you and Mira work, and I'm broken and pathetic, and I ruined everything. The tears were falling now, hot and fast. Please, don't you see how horrible I am? How I ruined everything I touch? You should hate me. You should hate me the way you hated Mira. I deserve it more than she does. Please, just stop this, Rumi said. But Zoe couldn't stop. The words kept pouring out. I love you so much, and you should hate me. You should hate me. Please, please. Zoe, stop. Rumi's hands came up to frame Zoe's face, forcing eye contact. Her voice was louder now. Stop. Just stop talking. What are you saying? Where is this coming from? Zoe was shaking, her whole body trembling as tears kept falling. Her breath was coming in short gasps, chest heaving. I'm saying you should hate me. I'm saying I don't deserve... No, Rumi said firmly. her hands still cupping Zoe's face, thumbs wiping at tears that wouldn't stop falling. No, stop, Zoe, look at me. Look at me. Rumi's eyes were wide, frightened in a way Zoe had only seen once before, in that rental car when Zoe had babbled delirious nonsense, afraid and perpetually sorry. What is happening right now? What is happening right now? Zoe, you need to breathe. Can you breathe with me? Mira, Rumi called out, her voice sharp with urgency. Mira, I need you! But Zoe couldn't register anything beyond Rumi's hands on her face, wiping at tears when her nails should be dragging down her skin, just like Michael's had. Rumi was sliding off the couch and onto the floor, and Zoe's hands reached out unconsciously to hold her, to cling to something solid. Rumi wrapped her arms around Zoe and pulled her close, cradling her head as Zoe pushed her face into the crook of Rumi's neck. Rumi was crying now too. Oh, Zoe, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Zoe's words came out muffled against Rumi's skin, broken and desperate. She vaguely registered Mira's frantic footsteps, the sound of her running into the living room. Rumi, what? But Rumi couldn't answer, was too busy holding Zoe close while her own tears fell. I don't hate you, she said, her voice thick and shaking. You don't deserve to be hated for anything, do you hear me? Not you and not Mira. Can you breathe with me, please? Zoe felt Mira drop to her knees beside them, felt the coffee table get pushed further away to give them space. I miss you, Zoe gasped out between sobs. I miss you both. I love you both so much, but you should hate me. How can you still love me after this? I can't even look at myself sometimes. Mira's hand came to rest on Zoe's back, rubbing gentle circles. Shh, it's okay. Can you breathe with me? Rumi asked again, her own voice unsteady. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Can you try? Zoe tried. She tried to match Rumi's breathing, tried to feel the rise and fall of Rumi's chest against hers, tried to ground herself in the physical sensation of being held. Her breaths came in staccato bursts at first, uneven and gasping, but slowly, so slowly, they began to even out. Not calm, but less frantic. That's it, Mira whispered, still rubbing her back. Just breathe. Zoe felt Rumi turn her head and press a kiss into her hairline, soft and tender and devastating. And all Zoe could do was close her eyes again against Rumi's neck and feel the tears still falling. Still feel Mira's hand steady on her back. Feel both of them holding her in ways she felt she could never deserve again. Rumi spoke again, her voice steady despite the tears. No more sorries. No more sorries, okay? That's the name of the chapter. Oh my God, that's the name of the chapter. She gently moved Zoe so she could look her in the eyes, holding Zoe's shoulders firmly. Zoe kept her head down, still sniffling, unable to meet Rumi's gaze. Zoe, I love you. We love you so, so much. And we all still love each other. That isn't going to change. Mira spoke from behind them, reaching up to wipe a tear from Zoe's cheek. We've all said enough sorries for a lifetime, she said with a watery smile. This time, Mira pulled Zoe close, and Zoe felt herself lean into the touch without hesitation. Mira pressed her own kiss to Zoe's hairline, holding it for a few seconds. Zoe's breath shuddered, and she closed her eyes, leaning into the press of Mira's hand on her head. Mira pulled away, rubbed at her back again, pressing her forehead against Zoe's. You must have been so lonely here the last few weeks. Come on, let's get off the floor, okay? Together, Rumi and Mira gently helped Zoe up, red-eyed and sniffling and out of words, out of fight, just tired and raw and held by these two women who would burn the world down for her. They settled onto the couch in the same configuration they'd always had, Zoe in the middle, Rumi and Mira flanking her on either side. The notebook had fallen to the floor at some point, forgotten. The mix sat paused on the laptop screen, abandoned. None of it mattered right now. Rumi's arms wrapped around Zoe's shoulders, pulling her close. Mira took Zoe's hand in hers, their fingers intertwining. And for the first time in 2 months, the three of them sat there, raw and unfiltered. Just three people who loved each other, finally close enough to remember what that felt like. Zoe's breathing was still uneven, her face still wet with tears, but she felt herself begin to settle. The panic was receding slowly, leaving exhaustion in its wake. In its wake. She leaned her head against Rumi's shoulder and squeezed Mira's hand and let herself be held. They stayed like that for a long time, the three of them on the couch, finding their way back to each other. Break time for me. That was a lot. I'm shaking. I'm shaking. Crying and cuteness and sadness is not okay. I'm shaking. Hi, Kai. Thank you for the follow. Was reading along till I couldn't see past more. Damn, guys. Thank you. Yeah, go, Artie. She said the thing. She said the thing. We're all crying in the club right now. Damn it, Artie. Stop being so good at voice acting. You're going to make us cry. Listen, that might have been because I was feeling it. I was really feeling it. Oh, Demo really knows how to deliver those emotional gut punches. She does. Artie, your voice acting is peak. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Zomira Week. Zomira Week is so true. Zomira Week. Thank you, guys. You're so sweet. Thank you, Kai. Oh my god. I was like, I'm gonna listen to you while studying. I cried over algebra. Thank you. Oh my god. Hello, Toy. I was on the brink of crying after you read that. Zomira Week, 100% this. I'm trying to. That got really overwhelming in my head. It's like I was like feeling it in the back of my head as I was doing that. Oof. That was a lot. I'm glad I didn't. First of all, I'm glad I didn't like stream this whole fic online because it would have been crazy. And I'm glad I didn't stream the one where Mira has the breakdown because I was like, oh, I would have been so exhausted after trying to do all that. Guys, I'm going to turn to cheddar cheese from the sadness. What does that mean? Do you turn into cheese when you're sad? Okay, I'm going to keep going. I think we have like a fourth left. I want to end this live at like 4:30 so I could like go to work on time. Oh, cheese. Oh, melty. Cheese heal all ailments. Yes, I turn to cheese when I'm sad. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, this is healing. So we're gonna get, it's sad now, but they're gonna be together and they're gonna be very, very happy. They're gonna be very, very happy and they're gonna learn. So yeah. Okay. Sunlight filtered through Zoe's eyelids, warm and insistent in a way that didn't make sense. She stirred, consciousness returning in slow waves, her mind foggy with the remnants of sleep and last night's crying. Sunlight? But her room had blackout curtains. She always kept them drawn because... And the smell. Zoe blinked, chasing away the haze of sleep. Her vision focused slowly. and she found herself staring at a wall of purple hair. Underneath it, barely visible through the violet strands, was Rumi's sleeping face. She breathed in without thinking. Lavender and bergamot filled her lungs, the scent from Rumi's diffuser that clung to everything in the room. The same scent she'd buried her face in when she'd invaded this space weeks ago and cried into Rumi's shirt like a pathetic, no, ground yourself. What's actually happening right now? Behind her, she felt soft, steady breaths against the back of her neck, the press of someone's chest against her spine, warm and solid and unmistakably Mira. Zoe's breath caught. What? Where was she? When did she? How did she? The sunlight continued streaming through the sheer curtains, painting the room in soft, amber hues of early morning. Rumi was the only one who didn't use blackout curtains. She'd always insisted that waking up to natural light was healthy, that it helped regulate sleep cycles or something equally responsible and leader-like. Of course. Girl, I bet Rumi loves waking up at like 7 a.m. Zoe blinked again, letting her vision sharpen fully. The view didn't change. Rumi lay in front of her, face half hidden by purple hair that spread across the pillow like spilled ink. One of Rumi's arms was tucked under her own head, the other resting on Zoe's side, right below where the burn scar sat healing under her sleep shirt. The touch was light, unconscious, protective, even in sleep. Behind her, Mira's warmth radiated against her back. Zoe could feel the rise and fall of Mira's breathing. Her arm had draped over Zoe's waist sometime in the night, fingers loosely curled against her stomach. They were in Rumi's room, in Rumi's bed, all three of them, sharing a bed. The realization settled into her bones, real and almost impossible to believe. Her eyes began to sting, and she could feel the puffiness still there from last night's breakdown, the tightness around her eyes, the slight rawness of her skin. But these tears felt different, not born from guilt or self-loathing or the weight of believing she deserved to be hated. This was something else entirely. Pure peace. They'd shared a bed before in LA, that night before they'd hear about Michael's plea deal decision, when Zoe had been so desperate for their closeness that she'd asked, practically begged, for them to sleep together. But that night had been different. Rumi hadn't been able to look in Mira's direction, her body angled away, even in sleep. Mira had lain there, desperate for any acknowledgement from Rumi, any sign that forgiveness might be possible. They'd been in the same bed, but oceans apart, and Zoe had felt the distance between them like an open wound. This wasn't that. Zoe lay perfectly still, afraid that moving... I'm going to put this behind me. It's getting hard. Zoe lay perfectly still, afraid that moving might disturb whatever fragile magic had brought them here. Come over here. Nice. She couldn't remember the last time they'd slept like this, truly together, bodies gravitating toward each other in sleep, tangled and close and safe. Before Burbank, maybe. Before the fight. Before everything splintered into separation and silence and all the ways they'd hurt each other. Last night came back to her in fragments. The mix abandoned on her laptop, finding lyrics in her notebook, Rumi appearing on the couch, wanting to help with the track. The way Zoe had spiraled, had told Rumi she should be hated, had confessed to invading this very room and crying into Rumi's clothes. And Rumi had pulled her close instead of pushing her away, had wrapped her arms around Zoe on the living room floor while Mira rubbed circles on her back, had said, "No more sorries," with such finality that it felt like permission to stop punishing herself. She must have been so exhausted afterward, They all must have been. Zoe couldn't remember the transition from living room to bed, sleep here together, or the moment where they'd been tucked between them like this. But here they were. Rumi's hand on her side was warm through the thin fabric of her sleep shirt. Zoe focused on that point of contact, on the weight of Rumi's palm resting just below her scar, not avoiding it, not pretending it didn't exist, just accepting it as part of her. Demo is a genius for paralleling Rumi's patterns to Zoe's scar. It's so good. I mean, the whole like Rumi's patterns, like Rumi's patterns being an analogy for like self harm scars thing has been done in other ones and not this one. So like it kind of feels in that same vein, but it's so good. It's so good. Behind her, Mira shifted slightly in sleep, and her arm tightened around Zoe's waist for just a moment before relaxing again. The movement pressed them closer together, and Zoe felt Mira's face nestle against the back of her neck, breath warm against her skin. Zoe's vision blurred as tears gathered, but she didn't try to stop them this time. She let them fall silently onto Rumi's pillow, letting herself feel the overwhelming relief and love and gratitude that came with waking up held between the two people she loved most in the world. Her throat felt tight, her chest full of something too big to name, the kind of hope she'd been too afraid to let herself feel for months. The morning light grew stronger, shifting from amber to pale gold as Sol woke up outside their window. Somewhere in the distance, traffic hummed. The city moved forward like it always did, indifferent to the small miracles happening in bedrooms across its sprawling landscape. But in this room, in this bed, time felt suspended. I think the spoilery fan art that I've seen was of this little scene here. Oh, Zoe watched Rumi's sleeping face, and memorizing the peaceful set of her features, the way her purple hair caught the morning light. She felt Mira's steady breathing against her back, the warmth of her presence, and Zoe let herself believe that they were going to be okay. Together, home. Rumi stirred slightly, her hand flexing against Zoe's side. Her eyelashes fluttered, and Zoe held her breath, watching as consciousness slowly washed over the girl in front of her. When Rumi's eyes finally opened, dark and still hazy, they focused on Zoe's face, her eyelashes softly fluttering as she blinked away sleep. For a moment, neither of them moved. They just looked at each other in the gentle morning light, and Zoe saw the exact moment when Rumi registered where they were and what was happening. Rumi's expression softened into something so tender it made Zoe's breath hitch. "Hi," Rumi whispered, her voice rough with sleep. "Hi," Zoe whispered back, and a fresh tear slipped down her cheek. Rumi's thumb moved against her side, a gentle sweep that might have been unconscious or might have been deliberate comfort. Behind them, Mira began to wake, drawn into consciousness by their quiet voices. "Zo?" Mira's voice came soft and confused against her neck. "Why are you—" Mira must have registered the tears in Zoe's voice, the way her body was trembling slightly. Her arm tightened around Zoe's waist, pulling her closer. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Zoe managed, her voice breaking on the words. "Nothing's wrong at all." And it was true. For the first time in months, nothing was wrong. They were all here, all three of them, choosing this closeness after everything that had tried to break them apart, choosing each other. Zoe closed her eyes and let herself sink into their warmth, let herself be held, let herself believe in the possibility of mornings like this becoming their new normal. Sorry, I'm putting this down. I'm putting this down. This is not over yet, but I'm just applauding. I'm just applauding that section. I know Demo's not here to hear this, but damn. Artie, I was sobbing at this part. How are you keeping it together? Oh god. Demo has dog walked my emotions through the trenches, and we're finally getting home. That's such a funny way of saying it. This is so good. It's so good. I'm gonna take a few notes for um okay, I'm back now. Yeah, that was really lovely. Zoe finally got her girls back, and we're not even over. It's not even over yet. Oh god. I want it to end, but I don't want it to end. But I want it to end, and I want them to be happy, but I don't want it to end. So that's what I'm struggling with. Finally, they can be gay. I never cry like ever. Then I read this fic and bawled my eyes out. So you decided then? Zoe sat back in her chair, her bag already on her lap. 5 minutes before the end of her session. She nodded, feeling the certainty settle into her chest. Yeah, I think I know this is what I want. Just for me. I don't want to carry the scar. Not because I'm an idol or anything. I know that now. That's good, Zoe. Very good. The therapist smiled warmly, pen moving across her notebook in those familiar strokes that Zoe had learned not to overthink. You've done a lot of work to get here, to separate what you want from what you think others expect of you. Zoe nodded, fingers playing with the strap of her bag. It was hard to figure out at first. Like, where does the idol stuff end and where do I begin, you know? But I kept coming back to the same thing. I don't want to see it every day. Not because someone might ask about it, but because I don't want that reminder. And that's a perfectly valid reason. The therapist set down her pen, giving Zoe her full attention. You've made remarkable progress these past months. The way you're learning to separate guilt from responsibility, the grounding techniques you've been practicing, allowing yourself to accept support from others, these are significant steps. I still have bad days, Zoe admitted. Of course you do. Healing isn't linear, and you experienced significant trauma. But you're building the tools to handle those days differently now. The therapist glanced at the clock. How are things at home with Rumi and Mira? Zoe felt warmth spread through her chest. Better, a lot better. We're sleeping in the same bed again. Not every night, but some nights. And it doesn't feel forced anymore. It just feels. She trailed off, searching for words. Natural? Yeah, like we're remembering how to be us again. The therapist smiled, making a final note. That's wonderful progress for all of you. Still doing your homework? The writing? Zoe stood, adjusting her bag on her shoulder and returning the smile. Yeah, I am. She's my Pookie. She's my Pookie. I love her so much. My throat hurts just a little bit, so a little water. This is what happens if you have a job where you speak to people all day. Oh. Zoe didn't head to the clinic's Zoe didn't head to the clinic's basement parking when she exited the office. No private car today. Instead, she pushed through the ground floor exit, the afternoon heat hitting her immediately as she stepped outside. She adjusted her mask and pulled her cap lower, walking into the side alley just past the building, and there they were. Rumi and Mira stood in the shade, their own disguises in place. Oversized hoodies despite the weather, masks, caps pulled low enough to hide most of their faces. They were chatting lightly, laughing about something Zoe couldn't hear yet. Rumi sipped on a boba tea she definitely wasn't allowed to have, the straw caught between her lips beneath her mask as she grinned at whatever Mira was saying. Mira held one of her own, and in the other hand, a third cup, clearly meant for Zoe. Zoe's pace quickened as she caught sight of them, her heart doing that thing it had been doing lately whenever she saw them together. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you waiting. Rumi turned at her voice, and even behind the mask, Zoe could tell she was smiling. The crinkle at the corners of her eyes, the slight tilt of her head. Zoe had memorized these tells years ago. It's okay, Rumi said, her tone easy and warm. Nothing to be sorry for. The patterns on Rumi's arms were visible where her sleeves had ridden up slightly, iridescent lines that caught the afternoon sun, shifting through colors that Zoe now knew by heart. Silver, purple, and hints of gold and blue. No longer something shameful to hide in long sleeves and turtlenecks, but just part of Rumi, beautiful and hers. Mira held up the third cup, a grin evident in her voice. Got you your favorite. Zoe took it, feeling the cool plastic against her palm, and let herself smile wide enough that it showed in her eyes above the mask. Thanks, Annie. Mira's visible amusement grew, and her voice took on that teasing lilt Zoe had missed. Oh, I'm an Annie now, not just Rumi? Zoe bumped her with her shoulder, already bringing the straw to her lips for that first perfect sip. The sweetness hit exactly right. They'd remembered just how she liked it. You're my Annie when you get me things. Brat, Mira said, but there was nothing but affection in it. They're so sweet. Happy Zomira week. Rumi snickered, and they fell into step naturally, arranging themselves in that configuration that felt like muscle memory. They walked down the alley, three disguised figures that could have been anyone, college students, office workers on break, just regular people enjoying the afternoon. How was the session? Rumi asked after a few sips of her boba. She kept her voice low, mindful of the occasional passerby, even in this quieter street. Good. I told her about the surgery, that I was ready. Zoe looped her arm through Mira's as they walked, the gesture as natural as breathing now that they were allowing themselves these touches again. Mira looked down at her, and Zoe could see the question in her eyes even behind the sunglasses. Yeah? What did she say? Rumi reached for Zoe's free hand, and their fingers intertwined automatically. The three of them connected as they navigated the side streets, taking the long way home because they could, because they had time, because being together like this was precious enough to savor. She was proud of me, Zoe said, and heard the quiet wonder in her own voice, like she was still getting used to the idea of being proud of herself too. Says I made a ton of progress. It was nice. They walked in comfortable silence for a bit, the city humming around them. A motorcycle passed on the main street. Someone's phone rang in an apartment overhead. You nervous about it? Mira asked eventually. The story? Zoe considered the question, taking another sip of her milk tea. A little, but not the way I thought I'd be. I'm not scared of the procedure or anything, just ready to not have to think about it anymore. When's it scheduled? Rumi's thumb brushed across Zoe's knuckles, an absent gesture that still made Zoe's heart do a small flip. 3 weeks. Celine's coordinating with the hospital, making sure everything's private and handled properly. Of course she is, Mira said with a slight laugh. She's probably already vetted every staff member and their entire family history. Probably, Zoe laughed. But I'm grateful for it. One less thing to worry about. They turned down another alley, this one lined with small restaurants starting to prep for the dinner rush. The smell of frying garlic and gochugaru wafted out, making Zoe stumble slightly. We should get real dinner later, Rumi said, clearly thinking the same thing. Not just convenience store ramyun. Says the person currently drinking contraband boba, Mira pointed out. Rumi's patterns flickered slightly, her version of a blush. Bobby doesn't need to know everything we do. Pretty sure Bobby knows everything we do, Zoe said with a smile. He just picks his battles. Fair point. They kept walking, their pace unhurried. A couple of high school my butt hurts, sorry. Oh, a couple of high school students in uniform rushed past them, laughing about something, and Zoe felt a pang of something that wasn't quite envy, but close to it. That simple freedom of not having to hide, not having to calculate every public movement. But then Rumi's hand squeezed hers gently, and Mira's arm pressed closer, and Zoe remembered that she had things those students didn't have too. Did you tell your mom yet? Mira asked about the plastic surgery. Last night, she asked if I was sure and if I'd really thought it through. Zoe smiled at the memory. Then she told me she'd come up. Then she told me she'd come up if I wanted her here for it. That's sweet, Rumi said softly. Yeah, I told her it was okay, that you guys would be here. Zoe glanced between them. You will be, right? I mean, if you can with schedules and everything. Zoe, Mira interrupted gently. Of course we'll be there. We'll make it work, Rumi added. Bobby can rearrange whatever needs rearranging. The certainty in their voices made Zoe's throat tight. She took another sip of her milk tea to give herself a moment, then nodded. Okay, good. They emerged from the alley onto a slightly busier street, and all three of them adjusted their disguises unconsciously, caps lower, masks checked, sunglasses in place. The choreography of being famous in a city that both celebrated and devoured its celebrities. Oh boy, don't I know it. Oh, we should go this way, Rumi said, tugging them toward a side street. There's that bookstore Zoe likes, the one with the manga section in the back. You want to stop? Mira asked, checking her phone. We have time before we need to be home. Zoe felt that warmth again of being known and cared for in the small ways that mattered most. They were willing to take detours on the way home, just because. Yeah, she said, unable to keep the smile out of her voice. Yeah, let's stop. They turned down the street, three girls in disguise, walking through Seoul with milk tea and time to spare and each other's hands to hold. Little break time for me. Bobby sees all. invite Arson is my Jamie to join live as a guest. I don't think Jamie's alive. I don't think Jamie's awake right now. I don't think Jamie's alive. Guys, I'm tired. I love that Demo's still here, just listening in. We love just like listening while she's asleep. Slip of the tongue, y'all. Slip of the tongue. Oh my god. Jamie better be alive. We still have 12 more chapters of Candy Floss to go. Jamie better be alive. Oh. Jamie turned into cheese. LMFAO. I'm a little tired, but we're getting closer. I'm gonna see. We're really, really fucking close. I throw up. We're so close to being done. Guys. The end of an era. Oh my god. Artie, what'd you do to Jamie, Artie? I didn't do anything to Jamie. I love the support that Rumi and Mira and Zoe's mom have for her. Yeah. Artie, she's my Pookie. Unfortunately, I have to leave early for bed. Please go to bed. If you'd like to keep watching and fall asleep to my voice, you're also welcome to. I've gotten a lot of responses being like, saying that they fell asleep to my voice, which feels really nice, actually. So, yeah. Okay, guys, I started reading this fic beginning of August. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I started reading this like either July 31st, like 31st, or like August 1st. So it's been 2 months. More than 2 months. A bit more than 2 months. And we're at the end of an era. I refuse to go to bed until you're done reading it. I fell asleep to your voice a couple times. I appreciate it, y'all. Man. Who would have thunk that we would be here today? What is seeing the girls be normal after all the shit they went through? Oh, my babies. Oh, my babies. I said this in the beginning of the live, but this is the first Polytrix, like very multi-chapter Polytrix fic that I'm finishing live. Like I'm not counting the Unchanging Polaris because I read that after it was all out, but this is the first one that I had started by myself. It was one of my OGs. This was like the third one I started reading. Maybe it was like one of the first ones I started reading. And it's the like first 10 plus chapter fic that I'm finishing in the Polytrix fandom. It is a big moment. Meanwhile, Two's Company is on chapter 35. Like, girl. When Two's Company finishes, I'll be like, wow, the end of an era. But this is the end of an era. In a different way. Zoe and Mira sat sprawled on the couch, a drama playing on the TV that neither of them were fully paying attention to. The afternoon light filtered through the windows, casting the living room in that lazy, golden quality. Golden, get it? Golden quality that made everything feel slower and softer. A bag of spicy chips sat between them. Mira's choice, of course. In the kitchen, the kettle whistled slowly before clicking off. Rumi was making tea, the familiar sounds of her moving a comfortable backdrop to the drama's OST. Zoe reached for another chip, crunching thoughtfully before turning her head slightly toward Mira. Excited for tomorrow? Mira groaned, her head falling back against the couch. You are not asking me if I'm excited about starting promotions again. From the kitchen, Rumi's voice carried over the sound of pouring water. They're not that bad. Zoe giggled as Mira groaned even louder, more theatrical this time. She didn't ask you workaholic. Whatever, she sang back, the playful dismissiveness clear in her tone. Both Zoe and Mira laughed, the sound filling the living room with warmth. Zoe sank deeper into the couch cushions, letting her head rest on Mira's shoulder. Mira shifted immediately, leaning closer so Zoe's neck wouldn't bend awkwardly, her body naturally accommodating the weight. Zoe kept her eyes on the TV screen where the drama's leads were having some kind of emotional confrontation, but a teasing smile played on her lips. Don't miss me too much. Mira chuckled, the movement of her shoulders slightly jostling Zoe's head. Zoe shifted closer in response, settling more comfortably against her. Of course we'll miss you, Mira said, that teasing warmth creeping into her voice. I miss seeing you get bullied into doing Eggio. Zoe scrunched her nose, laughing. Oh my god. She paused just long enough to look serious. That's that's uh that's actually why I'm not going, she said, deadpan, then gave a dramatic shudder, locking eyes with Mira. Too many Eggio sweats. From the kitchen, Rumi's laugh rang out. Gross! Zoe grinned, grabbing another chip. Grabbing another chip, the drama continued playing, but she wasn't really watching anymore. Just existing here, in this moment, with Mira warm beside her and Rumi's presence close enough to feel even from the other room. The silence that followed was comfortable, broken only by the drama soundtrack and the distant sounds of Rumi preparing her tea. Guys, the construction is so fucking loud. And this is the quietest room in our house. Jesus Christ. Okay. The silence that followed was The silence that followed was comfortable, broken only by the drama's soundtrack and the distant sounds of Rumi preparing her tea. Zoe felt Mira's breathing against her, steady and calming. Oh my god. It is in fact 4. That's crazy. Whatever. I was maybe gonna get something, but it's fine. Damn. Or should I try? Oh shit. Oh. No. Okay. You'll be okay. Mira, you'll be okay? Mira asked after a moment, her voice softer now. Alone here? Zoe nodded against her shoulder, some of her loose hair clinging to Mira's sweatshirt. Yep, I promise. Mira turned slightly, and Zoe felt her right hand come up to smooth down the stray strands. Her fingers moved gently through Zoe's hair, tucking it back into place with careful attention. The touch was tender in a way that made Zoe's chest feel warm. Actually, guys, I'm going to pause for a second. And I'll be right back, okay? Hi, I'm back. That was easier than I thought. I just had to do something. Okay. Cool. Mira turned slightly. Yeah. Mira turned slightly, and Zoe felt her right hand come up to smooth down the stray strands. I read that one. Zoe closed her eyes at the sensation, letting herself sink into it. Mira's hand continued its path, combing through her hair in slow, soothing strokes. The hand in her hair stilled for a moment, and Zoe felt Mira shift slightly. Then came the warmth of Mira's nose against her hair, breathing her in, and Zoe's throat tightened at the intimacy of the gesture. Then she felt it, the soft press of Mira's lips against the top of her head, a kiss so gentle it barely registered as movement, just warmth and intention and everything they'd been rebuilding over these past weeks. Zoe smiled, eyes still closed, feeling the rightness of this moment settle into her bones. She could hear the muffled dialogue of the drama, Rumi still humming to herself in the kitchen as she moved about, and Mira's soft breathing against her hair. Mira's hand resumed its path through her hair, fingers carding through the strands with that same careful attention. Another kiss pressed to her head, then another, small gestures of affection that Zoe had been starving for. Her heart was doing that thing again, that flutter that felt different from the anxiety driven racing of the past months. This was anticipation, want, the beginning of hope that they could have this again, have each other in all the ways they'd lost. Mira's fingers traced down the nape of her neck, gentle and exploratory, like she was relearning the landscape of Zoe's body. Zoe's breath hitched slightly at the touch, and she felt Mira still in response. Zoe? Mira whispered, her voice barely audible. Zoe kept her eyes closed, leaning into Mira's touch. Hmm? She felt Mira's hand move from her hair, sliding down to her shoulder, then a finger under her chin, tilting her fit up off Mira's shoulder. The movement was slow, questioning, giving Zoe every opportunity to pull away if she wanted. The surprise of it made Zoe's eyes flutter open. Mira was looking at her. Their faces were closer than they'd been in months. Zoe could see every detail, the way Mira's eyes searched her face, then dropped to her lips, the way Mira's mouth opened slightly, then closed again, the way her eyebrows drew upward, the small tell of nervousness that Zoe had memorized years ago. But it was Mira's eyes that gave her away completely, dark and warm and full of want and uncertainty and love. So much love, it made Zoe's chest tighten, so different from the way it would clench during the last 2 months, that painful squeeze of guilt and distance. This was anticipation, desire, the physical manifestation of hope. Her heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the drama, the kitchen sounds, everything except the sight of Mira looking at her like this. Zoe nodded, the movement almost imperceptible, just a slight dip of her chin still cradled in Mira's fingers. Mira didn't waste a second. She closed the distance between them, her lips meeting Zoe's with a softness that made Zoe's entire body react. The kiss was gentle, but not tentative. Mira kissing her like she'd been holding back for months and finally had permission to let go. Zoe kissed back immediately, her hand coming up to rest against Mira's neck. She could feel everything in it, months of want and love and every other complicated emotion they'd been carrying, relief and desire, and the simple, overwhelming joy of being allowed to have this again. All the background noise faded away. There was only this, Mira's lips against hers, Mira's hand still cradling her face, Mira's other arm wrapping around her waist to pull her closer. Zoe melted into it, into her, letting herself be held and kissed and loved in a way she'd been too afraid to hope for. When they finally pulled apart, just slightly, just enough to breathe, Zoe kept her eyes closed for a moment longer, not ready to let go of the feeling. Zoe? Mira whispered again, her forehead coming to rest against Zoe's. Zoe opened her eyes to find Mira looking at her with such tenderness it made her want to cry. Hi, Zoe breathed. Mira laughed softly, the sound vibrating between them. Hi. Before they could say anything, they heard footsteps. Rumi's familiar gait approaching from the kitchen. Zoe and Mira shared a look, an understanding passing between them without words. Then they stood just as Rumi entered the living room, a mug of tea in each hand, Zoe's water bottle tucked precariously into the crook of her elbow. She was smiling softly, humming under her breath, completely unaware of what had just happened. But then she saw them, Mira and Zoe holding hands as they got up from the couch, standing close. The slight breathlessness in Mira's expression, the flush of her cheeks, the particular quality that only came from being kissed. Rumi's steps faltered, her patterns flickering with recognition. Before she could say anything, Zoe and Mira moved. Zoe reached for her tumbler, carefully taking it from Rumi's elbow, uh, and then took both of Rumi's hands in hers and pulled her toward the couch. Mira smoothly took the two mugs of hot tea and placed them on the coffee table, following close behind. Zoe guided Rumi down onto the couch with a gentle insistence, earning a soft oof from Rumi as she landed on the cushions. She found herself sandwiched between Zoe and Mira, a little breathless, her patterns pulsing visibly beneath her skin. They could tell her heart was racing, the iridescent lines shifting faster and brighter. Zoe knelt on the couch, her body fully turned to face Rumi. Mira sat on Rumi's other side, angled toward her, creating a quiet intimacy in their positioning. Mira reached out and took Rumi's hand. Rumi's head swiveled to meet her eyes, surprise and something more vulnerable flickering across her face. Mira looked down at Rumi's hand cradled between both of hers. Her thumbs moved slowly, turning Rumi's palm upward, tracing the lines there with feather-light touches. The gesture was reverent, asking permission with every movement. Then Mira leaned down and pressed a kiss to the center of Rumi's palm. Rumi's breath caught audibly, her patterns flaring brighter, silver and purple and gold dancing beneath her skin. Mira looked up, her eyes reflecting the glow of Rumi's patterns as she searched Rumi's face. "Is this okay?" Rumi's eyes were glassy with unshed tears. She nodded, the movements small but certain. Her patterns pulsed even brighter, responding to the emotion flooding through her again. Mira pressed another kiss against her palm, this one lingering. Then another to her wrist, where her pulse was visible beneath the iridescent patterns. Zoe stayed beside them, giving Mira and Rumi this moment they needed. She could see it all, the way Mira was testing the waters, asking permission with every touch, the way Rumi was allowing Mira back into her space, into her heart, after all these months. The afternoon light painted them in gold. The drama still played. None of them cared. Mira lifted her head, still holding Rumi's hand, and their eyes met. "I miss this," Mira whispered. "Missed you." A tear slipped down Rumi's cheek. "I miss you too, so much." Zoe felt her own throat tighten, watching them find their way back to each other. She reached out slowly, placing her hand on Rumi's knee, a gentle reminder that she was here too, that they were all here together. Rumi turned to Zoe at the contact, and Zoe saw the unshed tears pooling in her eyes, the way her eyebrows drew together with emotion. Zoe felt her heart swell. Rumi's face was bathed in the afternoon glow filtering through the windows, her brown eyes shining with something that looked like wonder. There was knowing behind them, acknowledgement that this moment was real, that Rumi was breathing fully for the first time since the flight, that she'd been hurting but had forgiven them both. Zoe gave Rumi a watery smile. She could feel her own lips quivering, emotion threatening to spill over. She held Rumi's gaze for a moment, then let her eyes drift meaningfully toward Mira, who was still tracing Rumi's palm with her thumbs, completely focused on the simple act of touching her. "Go on," Zoe's expression said. "Do what you need to do." Rumi sent her a watery smile back, understanding passing between them. Then Rumi turned toward Mira, slowly pulling her hand away from Mira's gentle grip to bring it up to Mira's cheek instead. Mira's hands immediately came up to hold Rumi's palm against her face, leaning into the touch like she'd been starving for it. Her eyes never left Rumi's, dark and intense, and full of everything she'd been holding back. Zoe watched as Rumi leaned in, pressing their foreheads together. The movement tender and deliberate, filled with the intimacy they'd denied themselves for too long. I love you, Rumi whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You know that? Mira's breath shuddered audibly. She started to lean forward, pulled by the instinct and want, but stopped herself, as if unsure whether she was allowed to kiss Rumi yet, whether this permission had been granted, or if she was still asking for it. Rumi closed the distance for her. Their lips met softly, and Mira melted into it immediately, her eyes fluttering closed. The kiss was gentle, unhurried, nothing like the desperate passion of before, but something quieter, healing, a promise being remade. Zoe felt tears slip down her own cheeks as she watched them, her hand still resting on Rumi's knee. This was what they'd been working toward through all the therapy sessions and careful conversations and nights sleeping in separate rooms. This moment of choosing each other again, of allowing themselves to be vulnerable and loved despite everything that had tried to break them. The afternoon light painted them in gold and amber, and Zoe committed it to memory. Rumi and Mira kissing on the couch, finding their way back to each other while the world continued on. When they finally pulled apart, Rumi kept her forehead pressed to Mira's, both of them breathing each other's air. Mira's eyes were still closed, her expression one of such profound relief that it made Zoe's chest ache. I love you too, Mira whispered finally, opening her eyes to meet Rumi. So much. I'm so sorry. No more sorries, Rumi said gently, echoing the words she'd said to Zoe weeks ago. Not today. Mira nodded, a tear escaping down her cheek. Rumi caught it with her thumb, wiping it away with such tenderness that Zoe had to look away for a moment, overwhelmed. But then Zoe felt a hand on her cheek, warm, and it was Rumi, turned toward her now, Mira watching with that same quiet reverence Zoe had shown. Rumi placed her other hand on Zoe's other cheek, cradling her face with such care it made Zoe's breath hitch. Rumi's thumbs traced the faint scars on Zoe's cheek, those thin white lines left by Michael's fingernails, and touched them like they were something precious. She drew Zoe closer, and Zoe couldn't help herself. Her own hands came up to frame Rumi's jaw, pulling her in. Maybe it was the relief. Maybe it was the sheer joy, the utter weightlessness of crawling back into the love they'd had. Maybe it was just that she'd been waiting for this moment for months and months and couldn't wait another second. Zoe kissed Rumi. Rumi kissed back immediately, soft and tender, like they had all the time in the world, like they were making up for lost time and also promising infinite tomorrows. Zoe smiled into the kiss, unable to help herself. Her tears finally fell, happy tears, relieved tears, and she giggled against Rumi's lips before kissing her again and again. She felt Rumi smile into the kiss too, the curve of her lips that Zoe had memorized years ago, and it made everything feel right, like coming home after being lost for too long. Then Mira was there, standing above them. She must have gotten up at some point. She leaned down over the couch, gently placing her hand on Zoe's jaw, interrupting the kiss between Zoe and Rumi. Mira pulled Zoe back toward her into another kiss, and Zoe went willingly. She could feel Mira's tears on her cheeks, mixing with her own. Could feel Mira smiling against her lips, that same relief and joy radiating from her. Zoe's hand found Rumi's, their fingers intertwining even as she kissed Mira, connected all three of them in this moment that felt both monumental and perfectly simple. When the kiss ended, Zoe kept her eyes closed for just a moment longer, feeling Mira's forehead rest against hers. Rumi's hand still in hers, the afternoon sun warming all of them. Everything was right and beautiful and theirs. Now the apartment was quiet except for their breathing. Three people who'd been broken apart and were choosing to come back together, piece by careful piece. The drama still played, forgotten. But here, bathed in golden afternoon light, they had found their way back to each other. Zoe opened her eyes to find both Mira and Rumi looking at her, their faces close, their expressions open and vulnerable and full of love. I love you, she said, looking between them. Both of you, so much. We love you too, Rumi whispered, squeezing her hand. Mira pressed another kiss to Zoe's temple, then to Rumi's cheek. We're going to be okay, she said, and it sounded like a promise. All of us. And Zoe believed it completely. We're not done yet. We're not done yet, but that was, oh my God. I'm like struggling between like exhaustion and sleepiness and like other emotions right now. I am so tired. Artie, how are you not crying? Look, I got close. I did get close. Our girls are happy again. Who's cutting onions? The release is so awesome. Yeah. So little left. Oh my God. 3 months forward, and Zoe was stretching on a stage during rehearsal break. Sweat clung to her skin. I'm actually put this behind me again. Oh my God. Oh, I'm getting real close to you guys. Sorry. Sweat clung to her skin, her oversized shirt sticking slightly to her back. She absent-mindedly massaged her side under the fabric. The surgery scar had healed clean, barely visible now, just a faint line that pulled slightly when she moved certain ways. No pain, just awareness. To her right, a technician worked on one of the lighting stands, the clang of metal and muttered instructions filling the space. Zoe breathed it all in, the empty rows of chairs stretching out before her, the warmth of stage lights hitting her face, the sounds of crew and movement that meant a show was coming together. She'd miss this. God, she'd miss this. A presence appeared beside her, pulling her from her thoughts. Penny for your thoughts? Rumi stood there in her own rehearsal outfit, a crop top and sweats, her patterns visible and unconcerned beneath the stage lights. She held out a bottle of water, giving Zoe a small smile. Thanks, Zoe said, taking it and sipping from the straw. Just taking it all in. Somewhere backstage, they could hear Bobby coordinating with the crew on ingress, his voice carrying as he barked orders about stage setup and props. The familiar chaos of pre-show preparation. Rumi sat at the edge of the stage, letting her legs dangle off. She patted the space beside her, and Zoe settled down cross-legged while Rumi's feet swung lazily above the venue floor. You're gonna do great tonight, Rumi said, her voice carrying quiet certainty. I just know it. Zoe chuckled, nerves making it come out slightly shaky. I hope so. I don't think the fans would like it if I fumble my first public appearance in almost half a year. You're not going to fumble, Rumi rolled her eyes. I didn't say I was. The squeak of sneakers announced Mira's arrival before she appeared, dropping down to sit beside Zoe and completing their formation. What's this about fumbling? Zoe didn't miss a beat. Rumi Anni says I'm going to flop tonight. What? Wow, Rumi. Mira's voice dripped with exaggerated concern, riding the wave of Zoe's teasing. Is that what you think? A little harsh, no? Hey! Zoe clutched her chest dramatically, leaning into Mira. Mira, hold me. Rumi thinks I'm going to trip and fall and embarrass myself during my solo. Rumi, apologize right now. Stop that, Rumi protested, but she was fighting a smile. Zoe and Mira were giggling now, the sound bright and free. Rumi gave Zoe a gentle shove, pushing her further against Mira's shoulder. You two are insufferable. Zoe's giggles subsided into a grin. You love us. Rumi rolled her eyes, but her smile was soft and genuine. Yeah. Mira chuckled, wrapping an arm around Zoe's shoulders and reaching out to tug at Rumi's sleeve, pulling her closer. The three of them sat there at the edge of the stage, sweaty from rehearsal, teasing each other like they'd never stopped, like the past months of pain and healing had led them exactly here. The crew continued their work around them. Bobby's voice echoed from backstage. The lights warmed their faces. And in a few hours, Zoe would stand on the stage in front of hundreds of fans, performing for the first time since everything had changed. But for now, there was just this, the three of them together, choosing each other, ready to fight whatever came next. The world turned anyway. Let me read the notes. Thank you again for reading, and don't worry, this isn't the last you'll see of When the Sky Breaks West. It will be a series. There's more in this world we still have to explore, aka Coraline. I'm glad I was able to share this with you all. I'm gonna leave a comment. Demo, you're sleeping on stream right now. Is Demo still here? No, I think. Yeah, that's good. You're sleeping. Okay. Commenting that. We love Demo. We do. We do love Demo. Even though she keeps dragging us through so much. Yeah. I'm gonna end the screen share over here. Hi. Oh my god, that looks so funny. Oh my god. Wait. Last night parallel because the world kept turning and the house smelled like pancakes from chapter 3. Why would you say that? Why would you fucking say that? Why would you fucking say that? Why would you fucking say that to me right now? Thank you, Politics Gods, for giving us Demo to traumatize us. No, why would you say that though? Oh my god. I thought we were done with the breaks. I'm gonna end the YouTube stream right here. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Sam. YouTube is just Sam, and whoever wants to check it out after the stream is done. Cool.